All right. For beating off to ya, we're like a stranger in the night. Beating off to ya. If I came, it wasn't light. Beating off to ya.
Came, it wasn't light.
Yeah. Beating off to ya. Beating off to ya. SOS, please, someone suck me. It's unhealthy for me to suck myself. No, yeah, for me to suck myself. SOS, please, someone suck me. It's unhealthy for me to suck myself. Yeah, there we go. That's it. Welcome to the Riff Ranch, everybody.
I need some head to get by.
I need some head to get by. Hell yeah.
Welcome to episode 36 of the Riff Ranch.
36.
Room temperature Corona.
Fuck yeah, you are. Kyle, you know what you're doing? You're gonna drink that Corona Extra.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna drink this Shaka
I'm trying to lose weight.
Hawaiian tea. Shaka tea Hawaii.
Anyway, I'm going to change it up this episode. Usually we end the podcast like this. I'm going to start it like this and say, go check us out. Join us on Patreon. Go follow us on Instagram. And leave us some questions for the Riff Ranchers Oracles.
Yeah.
Because we need some more questions.
Yeah, we would love to hear what you guys have to say.
All of your support.
And all the love.
Yeah, all the love and support we've got for the podcast. Thank you so much. Just wanted to start the episode on that note instead of ending it.
Show you guys some appreciation, and probably haven't made it through any of the episodes all the way through to hear us. Let us thank you guys and show you love. So that is a good idea. We should probably start doing that in the beginning. So here we are.
Here we are doing it at the beginning.
Yeah, here we are. We love you, and we actually really do need you to continue doing this. And Nut Button also really loves you.
Also really needs you.
Yeah, he really needs you, because if he doesn't start putting in, he's getting put out.
You need to start chipping in for the bills.
Yeah. Oh my God. So what you got going on today, brother?
We're gonna do some Riffalog horrors, I believe.
Yeah.
Riffalog horrors, and we're gonna do. I'm gonna talk about Outlast a little bit. It's a game that I quite enjoy, and there's also some like stuff with MK Ultra and that whole thing that I want to talk about, because that has a lot to do with Outlast apparently, and I didn't know that until the other day when I was looking into it. There's a bit that I was going to start off the podcast with, and I can't remember now.
I think that's so funny what I said earlier. I just had to write it down again. Like, I hope my mom at least got to nut one time.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I hope my mom gets to. I get to come every day, so I hope my mother at least gets to come lots. I mean, she's an angel.
Just ejaculating everywhere.
I'm literally just coming into the abyss. Y'all don't know it, listeners, but I'm coming.
We're supposed to be interviewing Sydney on Monday, but we should do a musical episode sometime soon where we're just constantly like the whole episode is just us making parody.
Be not the air.
Yeah, shit like that. How do you want to start with some analog horrors? What do you want to get into and talk about first?
Dude, I just need to point out that there's so many. It's so saturated.
Yeah, it is. It's a very saturated market. Ben was just telling me today. I was talking to my good friend Ben. Is that not good? I'm good on that. Like that.
On my face? That just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Come on, Shug.
No, you can't make that face at a drink and then ask me to try it.
Come on, you got to try it at least one time.
No, you got to try it at least one time.
I'll try yours and you try mine.
I shoved my Corona in his face because you guys can't see the physical comedy on the podcast. I'll try yours if you try mine.
Yeah, there you go. I'll just have a swig. I drank something the other day. I go to drink it. I take a swig, and they're like, yeah, it's got like, it was like tequila something. It's got tequila in it, and I like have a mouthful of it, and I'm like, but no, I'm just playing with you. Don't be just drink it. And I'm like, and I drink it, and I'm like, is this really alcohol in this? And they're like, no, I wouldn't do that to you. And I'm like, you would though.
I bet you would.
I bet you would.
The thing is that all of my friends are pieces of shit.
Yeah, Lauren, pretty Lauren, she comes up to me, she's like, here, baby, take a swig of this. And I'm like, ooh, for me? And I put I have my hands around it, like double-handed the cup like a toddler, with like the straw in my mouth, and like right as like I'm sucking up the juice, I stop, I'm like, oh wait, what's in this? And she was like, vodka. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
You're pretty, but you're not.
Yeah. It's pretty, but I'm finna be pretty in 8 months, bitch. You better watch out.
You better watch out, bitches.
You ain't gonna fuck me when I'm fat. You're gonna fuck me when I'm that. You heard me.
I was telling a story. What the fuck was I saying a second ago?
This shit's so bad.
God damn it.
It tastes like kombucha.
Oh, my good friend Ben. I was talking with my good friend Ben. And he's telling me this whole story about this guy, and he's like underground in these tunnels, and there's something about a mall. And I was like, oh my God, this is the story that Bailey was fucking telling a couple weeks ago on the podcast. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, it's made by the same guy who does the back rooms. And I was like, and Bailey thinks that they're all going to tie in together, or it's going to tie into the back room somehow, or some shit like that. And I was telling him about all that, and like we started talking about it basically. And I was like, yeah, I actually do know a little bit about this because Bailey talked about it on the podcast. And I only really know what he talked about on the podcast because I never went and checked it out.
It is a very good.
It is very good. Ben has seen that one. He's really into just falling asleep, listening to analog horror and like horror shit like that. I did tell him when we shot the last analog horror episode, I told him about the whole Godzilla thing and the guy that gets trapped in the suit. And he went and checked out that one, and he said he fell asleep listening to that one night. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And he was like,
I don't think I've ever made it all the way through that one, but it's really good. That's always like,
I listened to a bunch of shit on it. So my morning went, first I listened to an episode of the podcast so that I could post it for this Wednesday. And then, what is your thing not on?
I think it's recording through the thing itself.
You think so?
Yeah. Because it's not
Beating off to ya.
Okay, whatever. We'll just see what it's like, because regardless, I'll have this right here, so.
Just keep pulling it closer to you.
Yeah. It's like, hello, everybody. This is my side of the table. I'm Kyle now.
I'm Kyle now. Fucking, what was I saying? Oh, Ben goes to sleep doing all that shit or whatever. So my day started off, I was listening. I listened to the episode of the Riff Ranch that needs to come out this Wednesday, episode 25. And after that, I listened to the Jurassic Park thing that you had sent me. And the one you had sent me didn't really talk enough about it.
I think it was just talking about the genre of the dinosaur analog horror in general.
Yeah, it wasn't like a full...
Yeah. Because it was talking about like that's why the Bluetooth wasn't connected on it. That's why I just couldn't.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so with that one, it's but it just talks about the genre in general. So like, there's this one called I believe it's like Outbreak in San Francisco or Outbreak in San Diego, something like that, and it's like different people. They like wake up, they hear commotion, they wake up, look outside the window, and there's a fucking T-Rex kind of shit. Okay. And it's like, analog style, like a shitty camcorder recording this thing. But the main one, I'm pretty sure, is just the OG Jurassic Park one, which I don't know if I believe they're taking a concept from the video game.
It's basically like the people from this movie were like, the idea in the analog horror is basically like, these people in this movie were real people, and this is the story of how it happened to them and shit like that. And it's basically like Jurassic Park adjacent, because it's supposed to be like telling it.
The true story.
Yeah, the true. Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like the true story of Jurassic Park and how this happened. And that's the whole point to the analog horror, I guess. That one was interesting, but I couldn't find enough shit about it today to get interested in it. And I was kind of hoping that I would just kind of get to a point where we would be talking about it on the podcast today. And maybe I could learn a little bit more about it, and I could check it out a little bit more, you know what I'm saying?
And I feel like the main point of this, or I guess like the feeling behind what was going on in these, is more like the almost like a dream-like horror, like being a kid and watching Jurassic Park for the first time. If any listener remembers being a child and seeing like the Jurassic Park for the first time, like me personally, Yeah, I used to. Yeah, and I remember watching the third one, and I had nightmares about the Spinosaurus, and the raptors in the first one.
Yeah.
So like it's almost like that sense of like a fever dream when it comes to it, because it's usually dark and rainy, and like, you know, in these videos it's usually dark and rainy, and just the tone of the whole thing is really, I don't know, I think it's an interesting concept to have something like that. And it's also really cool to think that fucking dinosaurs can be, you know, could just roam around.
Yeah,
it shit.
It is an interesting concept.
Yeah, but they do bring in a lot of even some that aren't really directed to the main original one. They're still kind of like connected in the sense of it's like an experiment on an island.
Yeah,
growing these fucking, and then they get loose.
They kind of build on
you know,
the idea of the original.
Yeah.
And
There's one I heard of. It was like essentially these dinosaurs are, I want to say it's like they're people, like the dinosaur.
Oh, the people transform.
Yeah, people transform into a dinosaur. It was like some type of like virus or D1 virus, some shit like that transforms a genome and makes you into a dinosaur, and which is crazy. So in that one, like a lot of the dinosaurs have more human-esque features, which is and it's almost like this weird what's that guy who does those movies? The guy who made the Fly and all that shit.
I don't know the name.
What's that? The Rick and Morty episode where they make all the
I don't remember.
It's not Jerry Bruckheimer. It's Pirates of the Caribbean cocksucker. It's fucking.
It's like, I know what you mean. Like, I got you.
Yeah, I just want to have the thing for reference. So we might have to edit this a little bit out.
It's okay. I'll edit that out. Oh, that's
Dude.
a bit I want to talk about. I mean, I'll wait until you find it, or maybe I can say the bit while you're looking for it. But Bailey Cronenberg, yeah. So Bailey looks at me the other day and is like, you said something fucked up. This was like 2 weeks ago or something. You said something fucked up, and then you just looked over at me and you're like, I'll just edit that out. It made me laugh so fucking hard. You're like, I'm just gonna start saying that in my regular life. Like, I'm just gonna move that out, and everyone's gonna look at me like, Bailey, you're living life right now. You can't just edit it out.
No, I'm sorry. The barriers have faded between the two.
I'm just always podcast ready.
Yeah, it's always podcast ready. Hey, Bailey, how are you? Don't you think dicks are weird? Good morning, Mr. Walker. Hi. Hi. I like trans people.
You're just always playing the fucking racist gay character on the podcast.
Yeah. It's like, hey, hello, Mr. Walker. What can we help you with today? Jay-Z's in Paris. Jay-Z's in Paris.
Tracy's in Paris. Oh man, that's so funny. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, so the whole thing is like Cronenberg people. The whole dinosaur.
Yeah. It's like dinosaur as like Cronenberg-esque.
Yeah.
Dinosaur
like
people, which is
like dinosaur people basically.
Yeah, which seems really cool.
Yeah, it does.
And
I didn't find that one when I was looking. I looked at a couple of different ones today, and I think I would have been more interested if I heard that one. Or maybe I did listen to something on that one. I just didn't get far enough to like. Oh.
I was taking a shower, listening to a video, and as I was in the shower.
Something on that one, send that one to me.
Yeah,
I'll listen to that.
My God, I wish I had more coffee in there.
Because your other drinks.
Yeah, because my other drink tastes like fucking weird. It's naturally flavored, is what it is. So it just tastes like this guava and ginger. So all I taste is like, and there's no sugar, there's no calories, no carbs, caffeine-free herbal tea. So it's literally just flavored with like,
that sounds awful. I'm not gonna lie.
Natural guava flavor, guava puree, monk fruit juice concentrate, ginger extract, phosphoric acid. I don't know how to pronounce that acid.
I was listening to when I was listening around. When I was listening around, trying to listen to different analog horrors that you've talked to me about recently, I started listening to the Godzilla one, which we'll get into here in a second. But I started listening to these guys. Shout out to Don't Look Under the Internet is the name of their podcast. Like, Don't Look Under the Bed. Anyway, shout out to those guys. They're a horror comedy podcast, and I was listening to them earlier, and I was like, man, this is what I want to do with our podcast, because our horror episodes really they really pop off, and we get good numbers on the horror episodes and the analog horrors and shit like that. And I was like, if we could just be like the Come Town of comedy horror podcasts, like,
we really fucking could. We would kind of have to change. We're gonna have to change our set a little bit. Not our set, but
yeah.
But we could definitely do that. That would be a lot easier to find shit to talk about and make fun of. I mean, God damn it, we could really just watch scary movies. As a matter of fact, let's confirm it right now. Rebrand
as the comedy horror podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm
comedy. The comedy hour.
Oh my god.
Welcome to the comedy hour, and you leave dripping.
I'm actually down for that, because that's kind of been our niche over the last couple of months.
Yeah, like conspiracies and why did I say it like that? That's the ick. I'm not getting my dick sucked with that kind of language, am I?
Well, I don't know. You do try to fuck children. So.
Oh my god, not the child ones.
Not the child ones. I fuck children, but not the child ones.
I've never fucked a child. I guess I've had sex with people's children, but if you phrase it in that sense, it seems illegal.
Okay.
No.
Yes.
I fucked one 19-year-old. They'll never let me live that down. Fuck.
It's okay, Bailey. But no, I think we could really do something like that. Where not really rebrand ourselves, but that we've kind of found our niche. I feel like it's kind of the horror shit, conspiracy theories, analog horror, and shit like that.
We had games, horror movies.
Yeah, we could play some horror games. We could watch some horror movies and kind of talk about different shit like that here on the podcast, and kind of just air it out as the horror comedy podcast.
Yeah, air it the fuck out.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
Just like that.
Air this bitch out. That'd be funny as fuck. Because if we have episodes set up for several months in ahead. So out of nowhere, it's gonna be just instantly so much different.
Do you know? Okay, so I don't know why I just remembered this. I was talking to my mom about this today, and she was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Do you know what determines Easter? When Easter is?" Because I thought it was just the first Sunday of April.
No, I believe it's the spring solstice, right?
You're the only person I've ever met who fucking knew that.
Yeah, because the spring solstice is when the goddess Easter is supposed to come back and
spring solstice determines when Easter is, and the spring solstice happens after the last full moon in March. So the last full moon in March determines when Easter is. Easter is the first Sunday after the last full moon in March, which is why Easter is on March 31st this year.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy to me. Me and Bella were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, by the way, guys, I know this is coming out in fucking May, but it's it's not even March yet when we're recording this. Yeah. So anyway, it's fucking crazy, dude. I was talking to Bella yesterday, and she was like, yeah, Easter's on the 31st this year of March. And I was like, what? What the fuck are you talking about right now? What determines Easter? It has nothing to do with Christ.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Christ. That's what's crazy about religion, is that the big three ones copied everything else. Or at least the main one in America copied everything else.
My mom was trying to trick up my stepdad earlier when he walks into the break room, and we're all sitting there taking break, and we're all talking about this and shit. And she tries to trick up my stepdad, and she's like, do you know what determines Easter? And we're talking about it and whatever. And she was like, do you know why Easter? And he's trying to figure out the question, basically, because she was wording it weird. And she was like, do you know why Easter is on March 31st this year? And he was like, what's a leap year, isn't it? And I was like, that's such a good fucking answer. I didn't even yeah, I was like, he came up with that off the dome. What a good fucking answer.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with it being a leap year, but that's a good answer.
Yeah. He's like, it's definitely not Christ. Definitely got shit to do with Jesus.
That's so funny. Anyway,
is that when the rabbits come out?
Is that what the rabbits come out? It's like Groundhog's Day. When the first rabbit is seen, that's when we celebrate Easter.
When the first rabbit is... Nah, I'm not even...
It's the first Sunday after the rabbits start fucking.
Yeah, as soon as the rabbits are fucking. It's like a dude in the olden times used to ride around in town. The rabbits are fucking! The rabbits are funny.
Rabbits are fucking. He's ringing a bell.
Yeah.
He's like,
It's springtime.
the rabbits are fucking. The rabbits are fucking. It's his bell ringing.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, Nut Bud.
Thank you,
Anyway,
Nut Bud.
back to analog cores and shit. Oh, the Godzilla thing. So I started watching the Godzilla thing. I started listening.
Hard cuts back to Godzilla.
Yeah, hard cut back to shout out to Don't Look Under the Internet. I listened to their thing on the Godzilla analog core. They have like a very in-depth kind of explanation of everything that's going on. And basically what it is, I mean, this is more your thing, but I was just going to kind of get it started. Basically what it is it's like the original Godzilla movie is being filmed in this analog core, and they put the guy in the Godzilla suit, and his body like starts morphing to the suit, basically.
Yeah, it's like over time, and the more and more he gets into it, and like the more and more they make these movies, and the character of Godzilla becomes more of its own entity.
Yeah.
It takes over his actual physical body.
It was so funny though, because like I was laughing while I was listening to it, and Ben looks over at me and he's like, "Why are you laughing?" And I was like explaining it to him. Basically, what ended up happening in the analog core is they're like, well, we're shooting another Godzilla movie, and rather than make another suit, this guy's already stuck in the suit. We might as well use him again.
Yeah. So they basically have like their own like it's
fucked up.
And he's like, "Just kill me."
Yeah, it was so fucking funny because I was like, they're just gonna fucking use the guy.
He's gonna keep using him, and he's like nonverbal. He can't talk anymore.
Yeah,
can't do nothing. Like he's able to,
and he takes a bite out of one of the other actors at this point.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. He's like actually becoming Godzilla.
Yeah, like
he's in the Goji costume, so it's like.
And then they show I don't know, they explained it on the podcast, but they show like a picture of what it has like like the stick figure on a bathroom. It kind of looks like that, and it shows like what he would look like inside the suit. And then it's like, this is what it should look like with him inside the suit. And then they show another thing, and it's almost like he's almost shaped like the costume. And they're like, this is what's actually happening inside. Like, this is what he actually looks like inside the suit. And it's like that whole thing that they end up showing in the analog core, I guess.
Yeah, they do like that.
This thing is not picking me up very well, I feel like. Anyway, whatever.
Plugged into the laptop?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's picking us up. It's showing it's just like, mine looks quiet.
Just faintly?
Yeah.
But what I do think is really crazy about that whole thing is it's like man's search to create their own monster. It's like a metaphor for like men creating their own monsters for entertainment, and like using those monsters as metaphors for the shit that humans have done, the shitty things that humans have done, and the monstrophic?
Something like that.
Is that a word, monstrophic?
I think so.
Monster shit that we've done as people, but in turn, it is us that is the monster. It's a story about
and another part that I don't know, kind of cracked me up is like the dude
around that whole thing. I feel like I tried to break it down, but I just kept saying the same thing.
That's okay.
I don't know.
No, but another part that I thought was funny is like the guy inside the suit is super racist against Americans because his like wife died in
my wife killed by black man.
No, his wife died when Japan got nuked or something.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's like a whole part of the story in the analog core. And so he's like super racist against Americans. And the guy playing King Kong, because they end up shooting Godzilla versus King Kong in the analog core or whatever. And the guy playing King Kong is like, what is it? He's like part Japanese or something, but he's like helping the American film industry or whatever. Yeah. So the guy at the Godzilla suit does not fucking like him. And it's like
still like really fighting Godzilla v Kong.
Yeah. And it's like a whole thing in the analog core. And that's it.
He's like, "Hey, yo, bro, chill."
And then because he's like kind of becoming the suit, it's like a whole point thing that they point out. But like if you watch the original like black and white Kong versus Godzilla, Kong grabs a tree and stuffs it down Godzilla's throat. That's all. And he's like, because in the analog horror, the guy's actually becoming the suit. He's literally stuffing it down fucking Godzilla's throat.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Nuts. I'm going to go listen to this bitch again.
Yeah, I have that. Oh, well, I just know really from what I've been listening to today, because I couldn't really sit there and watch the whole analog horror. I just listen to a bunch of shit on it. But
but I really think the metaphor behind it is like they're using this monster movie to basically talk about the monstrous shit that America did during Hiroshima.
I mean, that's what Godzilla is about.
Yeah.
Is the whole
fallout. It's like a metaphor for like America as the monster. I don't want to say America, but basically America is this monster that and but in turn it's like the people are the monsters is what it's saying. It's it's not that's like, and it's just a regular person who ends up being the person in this. Is just a regular guy with no consequence to anything, but like just as guilty as
well, I mean, that's what Godzilla's always supposed to represent, is like he is the nukes that were dropped on Japan. And like that's why he's this fucking
So we are the monsters of our own creation is what it's saying, I believe. Which, I mean, is just too goddamn good. But I love like the grotesque ones, the things that like a body horror aspect to it. That's why I love the Monument Mythos. So.
That's why I love Shin Godzilla, because there's a lot of body horror.
Oh my god, yes. Like his lungs bleeding, his gills and shit bleeding.
Yeah, and he the way he evolves in that movie too is so fucking crazy.
They had 2 more evolutions they didn't even show. Oh shit.
I know.
They show on the thing.
Yeah, like the end of the movie, he's like kind of unfurling, his tail's unfurling into like all of these like humanoid Godzilla things.
And you're fucking crazy.
They're supposed to be working on a second one, I think. I think it was confirmed for a second movie. But
and I think Godzilla -1 is gonna
the whole thing. I watched the whole thing breaking it down before about like how he evolves to like every time something happens to Shin Godzilla in that movie, he evolves to get better and better. Like it shows when they go to shoot bombs at his face, like they drop the stealth bombs on him or whatever. If you pay attention, it's only like a frame of the movie. But his eyes get shielded by metal, like metal shielded his eyes. Because he evolves to like basically resist that heat, and now he has like these eye shieldings that like
and when he uses his first beam,
that's him evolving again, and it's like slowly, and then he learns to shoot the beams out of his like spines and like all that shit. He's like slowly evolving, and it's all sorts of shit happening.
That's a fucking good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite Godzilla movie. Is Shin Godzilla. I've only seen it the one time.
I cannot wait. I still haven't seen it, but I cannot wait till the new Godzilla movie comes out at the end of March.
The King
Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's so cool.
That one is, and I'm a plot leak bitch, dude. I fucking love to get these plot leaks on these movies.
Yeah.
Like I figured out this movie was being made in, I wouldn't say early of last year, but like around like June-ish is when I started hearing stuff.
I'm such a nerd. Is that I think I kind of like theory craft these fucking theories about these movies before they even come out, and did like 90% right most of the time. Like I remember when Endgame came out, and I didn't watch because I was like trying to stay away from spoilers and shit like that. But like what I thought was gonna happen in the movie was like 90% right. I was like, Tony Stark's gonna die. That's one thing I thought about the movie, and it's just like all this different shit that's like going on in Endgame. I like thought a lot about.
So it was with the ninth Star Wars movie for me. I was like, I remember going to see it with my friend, and I was like,
the new Star Wars movies are ones that I like theory crafted shit was gonna happen, and was wrong on almost every single movie that came out with the Star.
I was wrong
because I was such a nerd about it. I was like, oh my gosh, all this cool Star Wars shit is gonna happen, and they don't use any of that like deep, cool Star Wars lore. They don't fucking touch any of that shit.
They don't touch any of that shit. Yeah. But I theorized. I was like, it's gonna be Palpatine's. She's gonna be Palpatine's granddaughter. I thought she was going to be related to Palpatine. I thought it was going to be her daughter.
What J.J. Abrams wanted to do, when they asked him to come back to do episode 9, what he said he originally wanted to do was like, okay, so the 8th movie already fucked up everything that I set up in the 7th movie, but we're just going to have to run with what happened in the 8th movie, right? So he was like, his first idea that he wanted to do was like, okay, I want to create a completely new villain. And he was going to do like some celestial shit, like the Father, the Son, and the Daughter. Oh, that was going to be like the big villain of episode 9. And the studio said, no, we need something recognizable to be the villain for the episode. It's the final movie in the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
So like we need a recognizable villain. And so he was like, okay, well then fuck it. Like the 8th movie kind of set up Kylo Ren as the villain. So I'll just use him as the fucking villain, and it'll be like a whole fucking, like he'll be redeemed at the end in his death and like that whole thing. And the studio was like, no, we don't want Kylo Ren to be the villain. He's like too popular as a character, so he can't be the main villain.
He needs to be a good guy now, actually.
Yeah,
and you're like, what?
Yeah, so he was like, fine, my fucking third idea. They went with the third fucking idea. Palpatine was the third fucking idea that J.J. Abrams threw at them. And that's the one they landed with. And I fucking hate that. Because his other two ideas are so much cooler to me. And I like the other ideas.
I do love the thought of like the Sith acolytes and shit and like that whole thing. Like,
yeah.
But it's just...
We got really nerdy here.
No, it's just so fucking... Story writing in general, it doesn't have to be as shitty as they made it out to be for so long. That's why you should just give any random motherfucker the reins to make some fucking movie.
That's why you need to hire a director to do a fucking trilogy.
And like, exactly.
Like map it out.
Do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, fucking, I know this doesn't have anything to do with analog horror, but it's like asking Michael Bay to make a fucking Harry Potter movie. Why the fuck would you have Michael Bay make a fucking Harry Potter movie? You fucking don't.
It's like the guy that made episode 8. I could be wrong. What is the Kevin Spacey movie? The 7 or whatever. The one where he ends up being the killer in the end or whatever.
Oh, 7.
Yeah, 7. So I believe the guy that directed episode 9 also directed the 7, and he's known for doing like dramas and thrillers and shit like that. So it makes no sense. Well, I mean, actually, it would have been cool if he directed a different Star Wars movie, but it doesn't make sense to give him one of the main episodes of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he wouldn't be a good director for that shit. And apparently they're giving him a trilogy. He's supposed to be directing a whole trilogy, which I think will be cool if you give him something that's like not the main Star Wars shit. Like, if you give him his trilogy to work on, I think he would do like a cool thriller Star Wars trilogy. But like, that's what it should have been to begin with. He shouldn't have touched one of the numbered episodes.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Disney made some bad marketing decisions, but I mean, thank God for Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige and fucking and what's his nuts with the Dave Filoni.
Oh yeah, him too. But I was
dude, Dave Filoni, bro, that motherfucker.
Why can't I think of his fucking name? He's fucking Mr. Fantastic now.
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal. Shout out to Pedro Pascal.
Oh yeah, Pedro Pascal just won fucking best male actor in a drama.
Really?
Or the SAG Awards, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is like showing all the people who are nominated, and he's like drunk. Like he's like I'm not gonna get it. It's fine. I just played a dumb character from a video game. And he's like sit there like, and it shows him, and he's like, smiling. And then they're like, Pedro Pascal, and he goes like the gayest shit. He's like, like holds his breath. Like,
he's a very flamboyant.
Yeah, And he goes, he's like, I thought I could drink. I didn't realize.
I didn't realize. He's on the whole gay hand.
Yeah, he's like, I can't be up here because I'm gonna have a panic attack and I might cry. Thank you so much. I love you. And then he fucking walks up, and later one of the dudes from Queer Eye is interviewing him, and he's like, I don't know, they're just flirting. I'm like, bro, this man Pedro Pascal gay as fuck. Look, I fuck. What, you talking about Mandalorian?
No, but
that's America's daddy.
I need to get us back on track because I only have so much battery left on my laptop.
Oh yes.
No, you're good. I wanted to talk about the Outlast games have a lot to do with MK Ultra, and I was going to talk about MK Ultra a little bit before we got into the whole thing about the Outlast. The thing about MK Ultra is it's basically, I listened to a whole thing about, it was like a 10-minute video, and it was like a whole History Channel thing, and they were talking about basically, it was like super early in the development of the CIA. Like it was, CIA was like newly formed in like the 60s or whenever the fuck this was. I think it was the 60s.
Yeah, it was like I think they were officially created in 1956.
Yeah, for argument's sake, we're gonna say it was the 60s. And like, so they were, for some reason, they were super scared that the Soviet Union, Sweden was making LSD. They had just started making this LSD, and it did crazy things to people's fucking psyche and all this shit. And so for some reason, the CIA was extremely scared that the Soviet Union was going to come in and get up all this LSD and start dosing people in America through like their fucking covert operatives and shit in America. And so the CIA, as you would do if you thought the Soviet Union was going to do that, immediately just bought up all the LSD they fucking could, basically.
It's like,
and
they were like,
what a fucking like Hail Mary move for them to do. Is like they just bought all of the LSD.
What I feel like they're gonna do, what I feel like happened was they were like, Mr. President, it seems as if Russia is doing, and actually, you want to hear something crazy? What really was going on, apparently, was it was all just a farce, like it was a race. It was the arms race kind of shit. Like, they wanted to get to space America wanted to get to space before Russia. And
What's
all
crazy
kind of shit.
is like they thought that the Soviet Union was trying to do all these things, and they fucking weren't. Like,
Yeah, they fucking weren't.
The Soviet Union looked at us like we were fucking crazy for trying to do all these things.
They're like, you're telling me you're using these psychedelic drugs to try to make
that's exactly
psychic warfare, bro?
When I looked into it, that's what it was basically saying. Is like the Soviet Union, like their response to finding any of this out, like years and years later, after the Cold War had ended, like the Soviet Union found, well, I guess it was Russia now, but like they found out about this and were basically like, yeah, nothing like that was good. We weren't even looking into buying this LSD. Like the CIA was just frantically trying to prevent anything like this from happening.
Yeah, they wanted to be America wanted to be the first one to do anything.
The Soviet Union's the first one to go to space. That whole thing happens, and they're like, well, you know what? We're going to be the first ones to go to the moon. And the Soviet Union is like, okay, why the fuck would we want to go to the moon? Like, there's no fucking point. And they thought that we looked ridiculous because we were like, yeah, look at that
motherfucker, we're on the moon.
We're on the moon.
It's like, okay, good luck getting back down.
Yeah, like,
oh, fucking no.
We looked fucking
like, oh shit, they got back down? I bet it was fake anyway.
We were fucking insane in the 60s trying to do shit, and then we're like, we're trying to do it before Soviet Union does, and then we're like, oh, Soviet Union's not trying to do that.
We're better than Russia. We're better than Russia. And now it's like Russia's kind of like, we are better than you, but it is okay because you are gay, America.
because America.
Because okay, America is gay. They need these things for themselves.
Because America equal gay.
America equal gay. But on the Joe Rogan podcast, this dude was talking about the MK Ultra thing, and
Ben told me. I told Ben today that I was going to talk about MK Ultra, and he told me to be careful talking about that. He's like, people are going to think that you're a right wing fucking podcast and shit. And I was like, is that right wing to think about it? And he's like, there's just a lot of right wing like conspiracy theorists and shit like that talk about MK Ultra and shit like that. And he was like telling me that that's why Joe Rogan got banned off of Spotify for a long time, is because he had a lot of people talking about conspiracy theories and shit on his podcast and talking about shit like that.
Yeah, that's why I was saying when you mentioned our one of our most viewed episodes was a conspiracy episode, and I was like, well, it is more of a right wing-esque thing, but of course we're kind of like a free speech podcast. It's like where we just say whatever.
Yeah,
and just because of that alone, we are already kind of considered alt-right. Like we could be if we got any kind of like recognition anywhere, it would be like a satirical.
That is crazy, right? Because of all the gay shit we talk about on here, we would be considered a right-wing podcast.
Mr. Walker, it seems as if you're transphobic. It's like, no, I'm making that joke because I would fuck a lady with a penis.
Sexual intercourse
with
a tranny.
No, they're like, no, so that's where you messed up. That's the transphobic part. And I'm like, have you ever had your asshole blasted out by a trans woman? I haven't, but if you can help me.
No, help me. Holds up a sign on TV,
on WSB TV. looking for Little Dick Princess and like calligraphy. And like pink glitter calligraphy.
That's awesome.
And I'm wondering.
Anyway, back to
what they're talking about is, they use like a lot of prisoners and stuff like that for the MK Ultra experiment.
Oh yeah. So we're getting into like what exactly MK Ultra is. So
there's a study on prisoners, and some people were willing to take these trials, but it was using some
LSD in these people's eyes and crazy shit.
It would be that intravenous shit like that. But of course, intravenous, you can't just put straight LSD on in bloodstream. That's not really how that works. So they would have to mix it into a solution, like a saline solution, and then do it that way. But of course, and you know what? People people tell me this all the time. People look me straight face and they tell me this kind of shit. They're like, oh well, acid stays in your spine forever, and this, that, and the third. None of that shit's real. That's not real.
It stays in your spine for a long time. It's not forever.
No.
It's not forever.
No, that's not how the chemical works. It's a chemical that causes makes the receptors in your brain. It has nothing to do with like a spinal trip. That makes no sense. It's all, a lot of this stuff is just propaganda made in the 60s to get people to not do this shit around the time they were using.
No, but it goes in your spine because
no,
yeah, it
no, it don't.
because your spine connects to your brain and everything.
No,
because I'm gonna cut this out. But
no, I'm telling you, it doesn't.
Pops has had a trip before because Derek was talking.
Yeah, that's that can be explained too. That's PTSD through having.
He like hurt his back or something.
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
So that's just PTSD from.
It acid flashbacks are really just like PTSD from like this shit doesn't stay. That's all a big myth. Because if that were true, then it would also be true that if you take more than 7 hits of acid in your lifetime, then you're clinically
But
insane.
they can test it through your spine.
No.
Yeah, that's a real thing. You can test for acid through a spinal tap.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, that's a real thing. You can test for acid through a spinal tap. That's the only way to test for acid.
I don't know, man. Sounds like a bunch of hooey to me.
I know because my a friend that I went to high school.
The government also used to say that weed would kill you. So
the government used to also say that weed would kill you. They said it used to make you retarded. They said if you smoked weed, you would turn gay. Is what they said, I believe.
it's shit like that, yeah.
Yeah, but no,
but regardless of all that, they would use these prisoners, and one of the prisoners they think was used.
Yeah,
fucking Charles Manson. And then
really?
because he was a repeat offender, so he was constantly in jail, and he was a runaway. He had no family. He had like a couple of brothers, I think, but had no real family. There's no one to miss him, nowhere for him to go. And then he happens to be let loose, thrown into this community of people and he's years of being fed LSD.
Yeah.
Your brain's working at a different level. Not saying that it makes you smarter or anything like that, but once you're able to break down the human psyche,
Once you've been doing it for you've met Pops, you don't think the same once you've done it.
I mean, even myself doing so much LSD and shit like that.
Numbers flying past me sometimes, and it's like
no, it's like I don't know, your perception of humanity itself can be skewed, especially when you're using it in ways that are almost like having you like if you're like constantly watching gritty horror movies or like gritty dramas while you're on LSD, it's gonna change your psyche up and shit like that. And, but after years of that and him seeing the government's using this stuff and everything, he's thrown out into the world.
Yeah.
He has these impressionable young people with the free love hippie movement. They're all doing this drug.
Yeah.
LSD. Guess who happens to know a lot about it? Happens to know where to get military grade LSD. Fucking Charles Manny, bro. Chuck Manny. My boy Chuck Manny.
My boy Chuck Manny. He just happens to know. He happens to know. He's like, I don't know what to say. Listen to me. I have this friend named Chuck Manny. He knows how to get military grade LSD. Okay. It's great.
He said it's military grade. I asked him how he got it, and he told me if he told me he's going to have to kill me. So I don't know. I don't think we should ask him again. But I think we should all do it. Bale, is that why you're sitting naked in the middle of the desert? Yeah, that is why I'm naked in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, that has everything to do with why I'm naked.
Yeah, burning bush. It's a metaphor for my pubes. And they're on fire!
That is so funny.
But, I mean, that is a bit, but that's like real with the devastating.
It's absolutely real. That's so fucking funny. Holy shit.
But that like, I believe, nothing, I want to say the Unabomber, I believe they say was a part of that.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I want to say it was the Unabomber. I'm not sure if it's him or the Oklahoma City bomber. I cannot remember off the top of my head.
It's the I want to say I've heard that the Unabomber.
What is it? Yeah, something like that. But it's but I mean, and you could even go. You ever heard of a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yes. Yeah, we've talked about it on the podcast before.
Yeah,
our first conspiracy theory episode, we talked about it on the podcast.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, like way back when. Yeah. So
recap. It's kind of. I mean, it's a fictional story, but it's like a real fucking thing
that happened. About in that previous episode, you were kind of talking about how like it's kind of a metaphor for like Jedi and stuff. They call themselves Jedi, and Ewan McGregor plays the main character because he'll do a whole thing about Jedi.
Yeah, because he's like, but like they make it more, of a fun movie in the. It's supposed to be like but it's based off of like kind of a real thing.
It's how it's like kind of like a funny. It's kind of like a play on like kind of shit that is going on.
So and in this and it like I'm pretty sure that MK Ultra-esque stuff is still going on today. Probably not under the same name, but I think
so, because in that first conspiracy theory episode, we also kind of talked about how there's the whole thing with LSD going on in Antarctica that one guy was talking about in the interview. And he was talking about how they put it in his eyes, and the girl that also took it in the same room, like they put a blindfold over both of them and asked them to do certain tasks or whatever, and the girl was able to name like the task that he was doing or something like that. That was like,
I think that's them getting.
Oh, okay, there you.
But
anyway, that was like a whole thing.
Crazy.
Like she was able to say what he was doing and like the task that they had asked him to do.
Wow.
And yeah, that was like a whole thing we talked about in the first conspiracy theories episode.
I don't remember that. I was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
But the part of that movie was, and it was a real thing, like how you said America thought Russia was trying to kick up like psychic warfare or shit like that,
and that wasn't even
it wasn't even the case. Yeah. So in the movie, they set up a whole military faction to learn how to be military warriors, like not military warriors, psychic soldiers.
Oh yeah.
And like feed them acid and shit. Like one of the main general dude, he goes out into the world to figure out how to get in with we guess like the hippie shit, and then he becomes like this hippie guru guy. I have to check that out. It's a really good movie. I love that movie. It's one of my favorites. And it's set in like 2002 fucking Baghdad, Iraq, right after the whole 9/11 thing, and but yeah, it's like a whole thing. What's up?
I came in to say we sat down like waiting at the restaurant. You're fucking sweating beads.
Yeah, I'm sweating my ass off in here. I just drank this.
We sat down while we were waiting, and there's like old people fucking everywhere. And I'm sitting there like this, and I can hear the one lady go like, "Disrespectful kids sitting down when there's elderly to sit down." First off, you came in after us. Second off, I turned to Zoe and I said, "Honestly, I see why pregnant women and moms put their hands on their back, because it honestly eases out the pain."
You just said that out loud?
I said that so fucking loud. Like, we were talking at this level, and when she said that shit, like, she said it to where we could hear her, like, on purpose. So I straight faced her. And dude said,
I said, look me in my pussy hole.
Look me in my pussy hole and tell my baby that I have to get up.
And I was like, just pregnant things. Like, I just talked anything and everything pregnancy that came to mind with Zoe. Like, I was like, yeah, no, like, how I was telling you yesterday, like, I could feel the weight bearing on my uterus. It's like so blatant and fucking talkative, but technically still polite and appropriate. And they immediately like shuffled away from us.
Oh shit.
Go fuck yourself, bitch.
Yeah. Go fuck yourself, old bitch. Subscribe to the podcast.
Subscribe to the podcast, please.
Wait.
There you go. Got 3 nuts in. Oh wait, Bella, before you leave, I gotta get. Oh, okay.
Anyway, so to cut it over, like, that was a good kind of explanation of the MK Ultra shit and like talking a good little banter about it. That was actually this is a really good.
Oh, but no, so there was a real study about how America was trying to use LSD, basically, like I said, psychic warfare or whatever. But one of the things they were trying to do was literally, they would stare at goats and try to kill the goat with their mind. Yeah, and that's why the menu stare at goats like that. Like that's like this was something that got leaked or whatever, and they made a whole movie about like this one little experiment, and it ends up being tied into the MK Ultra shit. Yeah. There's even a part in the movie where they're stuck in the desert, they get found by the fucking dude, whatever.
Yeah,
and they have experiments still going on. So there's one dude, it's just like a Baghdadi soldier, just like this random Arabic dude. He's in a dark. They're playing the Barney song, like "Oh, I love you." Da, 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 da. That, But it's like this like demented like kids are singing it and it's like scary and like there's like flashing lights and shit and it's this dude locked up in a fucking padded cell, fucking nightmare, and they check it out and he's like oh my god, what's going on in there? And he goes, and the dude turns around and he goes, the dark side. That's the dark side of the Force.
No, but I think that was a good, like, kind of banter about the whole MK Ultra thing, and like that was an awful situation that happened.
It was an awful situation that happened, and it's awful that our government will do that. But you know what? They're supporting genocide right now, so it evened out.
It evened out, yeah. But what I was gonna get into is the whole Outlast thing. So if you've ever played Outlast, it's basically a game. You're playing from a first-person perspective. You have like a camcorder. And you're recording throughout the game or whatever, and it's like super fucking dark, and you're basically like this investigative reporter. You're trying to make your way through this asylum, and there's a whole storyline to it, and you're trying to expose what the fuck's going on at the asylum, basically. And basically throughout the game you kind of see this ghost a couple times throughout the game, and they call it the Wall Rider, and there's like a whole like religious cult that ends up spawning inside of the insane asylum because of the Wall Rider, and it's like this whole cult that basically worships the Wall Rider. And the game makes you very like think it's very much like this ghost kind of supernatural thing that's going on. And at the very end of the game, basically you learn that there's this giant machine that they've built that like gives off these like fucking rays and shit, and there's a guy who's like tied up and has tubes going all throughout his body and shit, he's hooked up to the machine, and it's some MK Ultra shit basically. And he's the one controlling the Wall Rider. He is the Wall Rider. And so you wouldn't know this unless, for those of you who have played Outlast, you probably don't know this, but the Wall Rider that you see is actually made of microbots and
like nanobots.
Like nanobots and shit. And basically it's like nanobots that make up this like ethereal looking ghost thing.
Yeah.
That's what it actually is that you're seeing throughout the game. And the game never actually explains that to you. And that's kind of why, like, I watched this whole video on Outlast recently that was kind of like, how did the first and second game tie into each other? And it's actually really interesting how it all kind of ties into MK Ultra and that whole thing. And the people in the asylum are basically supposed to be the people that were experimented on in the MK Ultra experiment and this whole thing. And it's specifically like... I mean, I'm gonna come back to this once I start talking about Tuesday. Foxy, what are you doing?
I don't think it's her. I don't know.
She was right there against the wall. Anyway, what was this? Oh, so I'm gonna get back to it with the whole thing once I start talking about the second game. But in the first game, I remember playing it when I was in high school, and there's a part of the game where you have to start going through the woman's ward of the asylum, right?
Yeah.
And I remember going through, and there's never any female characters in the game. Everyone you see in the asylum is a male. And I was like, maybe they just didn't want to design like extra character models for like females or something. So like I kind of chopped it up to like the game, like the producers making the game and like that kind of thing. And like, you know, game developers only have like so many restraints when game. So kind of jumping forward here to the second game, and it's kind of like really interesting how they all kind of tie in together, because there's a comic book that kind of ties the two games in together, and there are certain characters that like have to do with like the investigation of both stories basically that's going on between the first game and the second game. And so the second game begins, and you're it's mostly this company that was it's called the Murkoff Company in the game. The Murkoff Company is the one who's doing MK Ultra in this universe of the game. And the Murkoff Company is like the main connecting point that connects these two games. But so in the second game, you're in a helicopter and you're playing as a different character with your wife and everything. And the helicopter ends up going down and you get trapped inside of these mountains. And there's this cult inside of the mountains. So there's like a group of cultists and there's a group of heretics, which are basically people who broke away from the cult who are trying to rebirth the Antichrist, basically.
Woo! I love that shit.
And that's like the whole point of the fucking game, and you're like making your way through it. So your main character throughout the second game keeps getting these hallucinations. And what I remember playing it after, it was shortly after I got out of high school. I'm playing the second game. And I was like, oh, this is kind of crazy. It's like a supernatural, like divine intervention kind of thing. He's saying these visions of like, I don't know, he's like near this whole cultist thing and seeing these visions or whatever. So what I eventually found out from watching this whole video and explaining how the games are connected is that the Murkoff company basically has a facility that you can see in the game. Like, it's off in the distance in the mountains, but you can see the facility in the game. And basically this facility has like these radio waves that are going out from the facility, and it's causing people in the mountains to have hallucinations. And that's what's going on here, is that your character's hallucinating in the second game because of some MK Ultra shit from the other facility.
Oh, man.
And throughout basically, I'm kind of spoiling the ending here, but like we're running out of battery. And fucking at the end of the game, this is kind of important, I guess, but your wife isn't, they end up kidnapping your wife.
Yeah.
I believe that she's pregnant with the Antichrist.
Yeah, I remember that part.
And your wife isn't affected by the rays of the station that are making you hallucinate because she's trapped inside the mines. The cultists basically trap her within the mines, so she's not getting hit by these rays that are making you hallucinate or whatever. But anyway, your character goes to save her at the end of the game. You're getting her out of the mines, and like all hell is breaking loose. Like there's fucking desert storms, and like it looks like the sun is like burning through the sky, and like all of this crazy shit's going on. And you're like, we have to get out of here. And she's acting normal, like kind of just like she's bleeding out, but she's like acting normal as far as like this whole storm and everything that's going on. She's pretty much not fucking seeing it. And it's kind of like obvious, like once you know what's going on, you can kind of tell. Like, cause I remember playing it for the first
But he's
time.
affected by the...
Yeah, when I remember playing it for the first time and not realizing that he's hallucinating all of this shit. I didn't realize until I watched this whole video breaking it down that he's hallucinating this whole storm and everything. But anyway, your character puts her up on like a table and she gives birth to the Antichrist. And you're like, oh, this whole game happens in one night. So your wife got pregnant and had this baby within one night. And so he picks it up and it's supposed to be the Antichrist or whatever. And this video that I'm watching is like, you can clearly see that she hasn't given birth because if you look at the shadows on the ground, the baby doesn't give off a shadow. He's hallucinating the baby and everything too. And the reason that your character thinks that she's pregnant is because when these radio waves are going, these radio waves that cause hallucinations also cause women to go through ghost pregnancies where they show pregnancy symptoms, which is why in the first game, there's no women in the female ward. Like that's like a whole thing they basically got all of the women out of the asylum because they were all showing signs of pregnancy. And like, that's a whole fucking thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Isn't it? And it's like, so she basically bleeds out and like her dying words, like you pick up the baby and you're seeing it, like the hallucination baby, and her dying words are, there's nothing there. And then she dies on the table. And so like the game is kind of like blatantly telling you that there's nothing there. But like you wouldn't really know it unless you see like the kind of finer details of this whole universe and everything. And so
finding all the stuff that you need to read and all that shit.
Yeah, basically. And the last scene in the second game, your character like basically falls to his knees while he's holding this baby, and it looks like the sun is burning through the sky and is just like eviscerating the whole world and burning everything. And he sees this massive flash of light, and that's the end of the game. So you wouldn't understand what this flash of light is unless you read the comic book that ties everything together. But basically, it's the Wall Rider. And at the end of the first game,
the Wall Rider like makes himself a part of.
Yeah. So that's a part of the first game is your character's going through and your character kills the Wall Rider. The guy that was hooked up to the whole machine and everything that was controlling this ghost thing. Your character ends up killing him at the end of the game and you think you got rid of the Wall Rider for good. What really ends up happening is that the nanobites like bind to your character and like become a part of your main character. And when he's escaping, basically these soldiers come in and they're trying to clear up any evidence of the whole MK Ultra situation and they shoot your character to death. And then as the credits are going by, you can hear, oh no, they've bonded to him. And then you can hear all of the soldiers being murdered and shit.
Yeah.
And that's basically your character coming out as the Wall Rider and killing everyone that's in that room or whatever. So as you read the comic book that kind of ties all of this in together, it kind of tells you what happens to the Wall Rider after the end of the first game. And he basically goes to tear down that the station that you can see in the second game that's like basically making your character hallucinate. The Wall Rider goes to tear that station down. And he just so happens to be tearing it down as your character from the second game is hallucinating the world burning and everything. So that flash of light that huge flash of light you see at the end of the game is the radio station exploding basically because the Wall Rider's tearing it down.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's kick-ass.
Yeah, it is actually a really kick-ass story how they tie in everything together. And it's really gotten me into the Outlast story. They're coming out with Outlast Trials is coming out right now. That's the newest game. And it's like a multiplayer game, and it's supposed to be a prequel to everything. And you find out the leader of the cult from the second game used to be in the asylum. The asylum where like the radio station is.
Yeah.
It's like making everyone hallucinate. He used to be a convict in that fucking asylum, basically. And like you learn all of this through the new game Trials, like the multiplayer game or whatever.
Yeah.
But what's kind of interesting is like a big theory in I guess conspiracy theorist circles or whatever is that part of the reason they were trying to do MK Ultra was to like have sleeper agents basically to go kill Fidel Castro in Cuba.
Yeah.
That's like a big theory that has to do with that with everything, I guess. And what's something that's really interesting in the new game Outlast Trials is once you finish all the different trials and shit you have to do in the game, the end credit or like the final scene in the game, your character kind of blacks out whenever he's allowed to leave the asylum. And when he comes to, he wakes up, like there's like a quick flash or whatever, and then he finally comes to, and he's in Cuba, and he has blood all over his hands, like kind of implying that he just tried to kill Fidel Castro, basically. And that's kind of
word.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the game is implying, is that this whole MK Ultra thing that you're seeing happen in the Outlast universe is like kind of creating sleeper agents, is what.
Yeah.
And
what if the whole time they're like Russia has sleeper agents? It's America that has the sleeper agents. Which I would fucking 12, 9, cat, dick. No, okay, you're good. 9, 49, 6, 7,
dicks,
hip,
pussy,
handicap, handkerchief, kitten, NyQuil,
homecoming,
jazzercise.
hentai.
Oh. Did we
I did something for you? Are you a sleeper agent?
It's like, I just fucking... I am here. The red, white, and blue needs me. I'm going to...
Yeah, just I watched a video the other day kind of like tying in the whole Outlast games and everything, and I was like, oh my god, that's so interesting. It's not quite analog horror, but it's like interesting enough and kind of ties into some like real world shit that's like gone on. And I was like, I really want to bring that up because side note, I really want to play Outlast for Halloween. I want to stream it and I want to play like Outlast and everything. So that's kind of part of the reason I brought all of this up and talked about it. And I'm really excited for like more Outlast shit to come out now that I know kind of like the overall story that's going on in these games.
That is really kick-ass though.
Yeah.
Like how like dude's hallucinating the end of the world.
Yeah, and it's
not really the end of the world. And then like
the guy from the end of the first game.
Yeah, and he's
like
destroying everything. So he's like, and then that flash of light is like him realizing that, oh shit.
There's more to it too, because there's also the whistleblower DLC from the first game, and it's this guy and he's like whistleblowing and like kind of trying to expose everything that's going on with the whole MK Ultra shit. And he ends up getting caught and they throw him in the asylum in the first game. And like you kind of have to like make your way out of the asylum, and it's this whole thing. And like spoilers for the end of the DLC, but your character ends up getting hung up for like hours. And when he finally wakes up, he kind of wakes up at the end of the main story of Outlast, and he sees like the church burning down, which is like a big event towards the end of the first game. Mm-hmm. And he's saying all of these things that kind of like are showing you, hey, this is the end of the first game that you're seeing now. And he makes it out towards the front, and it's like morning time. So like the main character in the first game's kind of already been shot to death and become the Wall Rider at this point. Yeah. Because like that kind of happens like at night. But yeah, so your character from the DLC, the whistleblower, is like making it out through the front door, and this guy basically tries to stab him to death. And then you see the Wall Rider come out of nowhere, which like we know at this point is the main character from the first game. And he like picks up this guy, and basically like the nanobites go into his body and fucking make him explode from the inside out. And your character's like, holy shit. And he's like trying to fucking get out of there or whatever. And then like as you're backing up out of the asylum and driving out, you can see Miles is the name of the main character from the main storyline. You can see Miles, and he's standing there in like a nanobite swarm kind of thing as your character's driving away at the end of the DLC. And it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of shit that goes into it, and it's like really interesting. And
So like different people's perspectives throughout the whole story.
yeah, basically, and it's like interesting how it all kind of like playing all of the different Outlast shit. Like you wouldn't know that any of it ties in together really, but it's all like heavily ties in together.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah. And I kind of got nerded out by it this past week.
Yeah,
And, it's good to
it's definitely been
get
your
it out on the
fixation this
podcast.
week for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely been my
It got boost my goots, if you feel me.
boost my goots here on the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like.
anyway, I think that's been the Riff Ranch podcast. We're at an hour and 5.
Is that time?
That's time.
That is time.
Hour and 5.
Thank you guys so much for listening all the way through.
Go check us out
all
on
that you
Instagram.
lovers.
Join us on Patreon. Leave us a rate and a follow.
Yes.
And leave
Shout us out.
Shout us out.
Share us. Send a link to your mom, to your grandma even.
And leave us questions for the Riff Ranch tutorials, please.
Yes, ask us anything for advice. Tell us a story.
Yeah.
Ask us to talk about a certain topic.
Thank you.
Whatever the fuck you want. You could send me a picture of your feet if you like.
Hey guys, thank you so much for supporting the podcast and everything. You know, it's been really
Oh, yeah, it is actually really great being able to do this and having you guys listening to us talk about
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about our fixation for the week, basically.
Yeah. I feel like every couple of weeks we have a new idea for a rebrand.
Yeah, no idea for a rebrand. Basically, that's what the whole Riff Ranch podcast has been so far. And we're slowly finding our niche and
Yeah.
rolling out more and more analog horror episodes.
Rolling out and rolling up, baby girl.
But thank you guys so much. This has been the Riff Ranch podcast. This is
Yes,
Kyle.
I am. This has been Bailey.
Bye, Mom.
Bye. No, I was about to do the thing. Bye, Jake.